Hello, domesticated detectives. It's Silent Signs from I Dream of Indie, and today we are taking a look at Lord Winklebottom Investigates from developer and publisher Cave Monsters.
I think I'll leave these be. Not really cricket to go around stealing from a dead chap.
I mean, you've done nothing but walk around picking up things that don't belong to you since we left home this morning, but have to draw the line somewhere, what?
Lord Winklebottom is a point-and-click style detective game where you take on the role of the titular character himself, as well as his assistant, Dr. Frumple. Think Sherlock Holmes, but not the Robert Downey Jr. version of Sherlock Holmes, more like the Wishbone version of Sherlock Holmes. But instead of a Jack Russell Terrier, we get a wisecracking giraffe. Set in the 1920s and with an all-animal cast, the game begins with Lord Winklebottom receiving an invitation to visit an old childhood friend, only to find there's been a murder! Because of course there has, it's a detective story. Now it's up to you and your trusty point-and-clicking mouse to discover the true killer. Surely Winklebottom and Frumple are the exact right animals for the job, right? Well, I mean, maybe after a spot of tea? If you've played point-and-click adventure games in the past, this one will come as no surprise to you as far as the gameplay aspect. You are going to be hovering your mouse or cursor around the environments in order to discover clickable objects, which you can then either inspect or pick up. You do have an inventory you can access by hovering around the bottom of the screen. Once in your inventory, items can be combined or used on the environment or other characters in the game in order to progress the story. Pretty straightforward. If you find yourself a bit stuck, you do have access to a clue system in the form of the cup of tea on the top right-hand corner, which will grant you some wise words from Dr. Frumple himself. I will say, in my experience, his clues weren't particularly helpful. Usually he just told me the thing I already knew I had to do, and not necessarily how to do it, but I've found that tends to be par for the course for point-and-click clues. You also have access to Lord Winklebottom's notebook on that upper right-hand corner of the screen, which gives you some insight on some of the shady characters you've met thus far. Navigating the world of Lord Winklebottom Investigates is also very easy. There are a few cases where you will be looking at a map and clicking on a particular destination, but for the most part, you'll hover your mouse over the door or the hallway that you'd like to travel down. An icon and the name of that room will appear, and as the name of the genre would imply, you click on it. God, I love when things just make sense. And speaking of making sense, the puzzles in this one are also pretty logical, which is a relief because you just never know what you're going to get with these types of games. There was usually a very clear idea of what I had to do with each object I picked up or with each character I met. It was just a matter of finding the items that they were looking for or the things that needed to be combined to get there. One thing I will say is that clicking on an item one time doesn't allow you to see all of the options for that item. So let's say you're looking at a bookshelf full of books. Sometimes you'll have to inspect it, come back later when you've already interacted with some other objects or individuals, and then interact with it again in order to be able to pick it up. This is what got me confused at a few moments, only because I thought I had already inspected everything and I had to go back and inspect it again in order to solve a puzzle. So it's not so much the puzzles themselves being challenging, but having to get used to how this game plays. Other than that though, no real qualms about the gameplay or story. It's actually pretty amusing. I really enjoy the use of puns or dad jokes or however you'd like to classify them. They are 100% my sense of humor, so I really appreciated how much of that was thrown into the basic dialogue and even the artwork and literature that you can inspect. In fact, pretty much everything about how Lord Winklebottom Investigates looks is freaking charming. It's so cute. I love the hand-drawn aesthetic of the art style. The 2D portrait art looks like a painting. It all looks like it's made with such love and care. I love the detail that went into all of these characters, as well as the world itself. Tremendous detail and imagination went into each of these environments. All of the world that you get to explore here is vibrant and welcoming. It reminds me of a classic animated cartoon. It was the artwork and originality that drew me into this title in the first place, and it certainly did not disappoint. You do not get a lot of options in this title, so the graphics kind of are what they are. The only things you can really adjust are the sound settings, as well as brightness and and camera and text speed. Other than that, what you see is what you get. Not much in the way of accessibility options, but the game is fully voice acted, so we do get to hear from this colorful cast of characters, and fortunately this is very well done. The voice actors they chose did really add some color and light to these characters. When you look at the story, it's actually quite dark and grim. I mean, we're talking about the murder of a childhood friend, but the artwork, the humor, and the voice actors definitely do their best to keep this a light-hearted adventure. Overall, I really enjoyed my time with Lord Winklebottom Investigates. It's not a perfect game, but it is one that has a lot of heart and charm. It certainly made me chuckle out loud a few times. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of replayability other than wanting to play through the story again, but there are far worse ways to spend a few hours. Best served with a cup of tea, milk first, of course.
Thank you for your time, madam.
What's that? Move your head closer. I can't hear you all the way up there.
We thank you so much for supporting clickbait-free content here at I Dream of Indie. We can't possibly make it without you. We would now like to take a moment to shout out our brave indie warriors that support this channel through channel memberships. At the Indie Warriors tier, we have Bill, Adriana Amato, CJR, Julian Kolbis, Ray Lynn, Marky Mint, Dave Hart, Peekaboo, Lex Noyle, Christian Cruz, PSC, Solaru C, and Chic Geek. At the Indie Legends tier, we have Nathan Moore, Skeptism, Jen Rose, Chris Jackson, Mr. W, Blue Francis 14, The Beefarinis, Business Cody, Chiron, Jace Glover, King of the Hatch, Ophidian Mind, Lord Metroid, Seacoil, and Larkison. Thank you so much for all that you do for independent developers, publishers, and for I Dream of Indie. Everybody else head down to the description box below. Let's defeat the gaming echo chamber and bring a voice to the voiceless ones in gaming.